How's it going, everyone? This is Jason Navarro. You're listening to Tongues Out Podcast, and let's just jump right into today's subject, which is one of it's a hard one to reflect on as a person and let alone as a society, but it's something that I did want to talk about today. So I, for whatever reason, for the last month, have been watching a YouTube channel called Dead Meat. And essentially, the host of the show just counts all the kills in all of the uh, in all of horror genre movies, essentially. Um, and I don't know why I watch it. He's just a great host on his show. He's not like I know, like, when you think of someone that's doing that, you would think like, oh, this guy is probably like a psychopathic looking kind of guy that does something like this. But he's actually a down to earth, young looking guy that's like really just does a really good job of narrating these things. And he just does a good job of just doing the kill counts in movies. And I love the horror genre just because to me, it's like another genre of comedy. I'm not really one to ever get really jump scared from many horror movies. And I did a podcast about this during my Halloween segment. But there was one movie today that he did a kill count on, or it wasn't today. I've just been watching a lot of old ones, but it was the movie Us with what is it? I don't want to say Jordan Peele. Okay, Jordan Peele. I was about to say Key for some reason, but it's a movie by Jordan Peele. Excuse my camera for losing focus for a second there. Essentially, it's a horror movie that is really weird. I would definitely recommend watching it. It's a really interesting movie. But without spoiling anything, essentially the movie touches on the aspect that society has, for the longest time, really masked the level of lack of caring towards the less fortunate of individuals, poor people, homeless people, especially people with mental disabilities. We tend to take all these individuals and try to put them in, like, hide them from society almost. Like, we almost like are ashamed that these people exist in our society. And so we neglect them in most cases until they become a problem for our towards our lifestyle, essentially, where we're so bothered by, like, a lot of people in California right now have this big issue at the moment where they're really offended, and people in Washington State as well. They're really offended by the level of homelessness that exists in their state, right? They're always talking about these homeless people, these drug addicts. And there's always like a negative connotation to these individuals. But at the end of the day, these people are human beings. And these human beings, maybe maybe they're just as sane as some of us individuals that are in a position of fortune, in the sense that we have the ability to think for ourselves and don't have any kind of mental conditions. But that is not the case for millions of individuals. I mean, millions of millions when you talk about the world. But here in the US, it's still millions of people that cope with some level of mental issue, be it anxiety, depression, PTSD. I mean, you name it. There's so many different kinds to address. And these level of conditions are just mental. Now, if you want to talk about physical, that's even more. I mean, people born without limbs, people that have been in freak accidents that cause them to lose their limbs. And these individuals can't seem to find a level of work. There are those that are, for whatever reason, they aspire to be more than what they have, but it is very difficult for those people to be in that position to will themselves into a better life, essentially, because it requires a lot of hard work. I mean, People that don't have any disabilities find life to be very challenging. Imagine if you were one that has multiple handicaps, like legitimate handicaps in life. And imagine how difficult life would be for those individuals. But we don't imagine that life because at the end of the day, the only time we're ever exposed to it is in movies or in shows. And a part of us kind of feels bad for a second, but then we kind of brush it aside and go back to our normal lives of just stressing about the stupidest of things, right? When there's a huge population of individuals that is their life. And for whatever reason, society has done a phenomenal job, and this is very sad, has done a great job at minimizing this news and really, like I said, just brushing it aside and hiding it from people. And essentially the movie Us kind of tackles that argument in some sense, but I don't want to go into more detail about it, but it's pretty creepy. But that's kind of the premise that it's talking about. And I actually didn't see it that way when I first saw the movie. But this YouTube channel that I've been watching brought that up when he was talking about that movie and what makes it unique and things of that nature. And I was like, you know what? That is so sad. It's so true, to be honest. Like there are people right now that are, and it's like I said, it's almost like society's ashamed that these people exist. Like that people are in these positions in life and you almost want to brush them aside, like get rid of them. It's almost like as if there was dude, this is the saddest thing to bring up, but it's almost as if like society wishes that there was a way to almost make them disappear. And like when you think of anything disappearing, that's like death in my eyes. Like it's like as if society would want these individuals to just like all die, like all disappear mysteriously, but just like get rid of all of them. And then that would make the world somehow a lot better if we had all individuals with like mental issues like disappear, all people with like disabilities disappear that aren't able to cope with that lifestyle, poor people, homeless people, get them to like disappear. So like our urban lifestyles could be a lot better. And that's so fucked up. It really is. Like, and that's one of the things that makes me just hate capitalism. I hate the idea of capitalism. This is coming from someone that was a finance major, and I still enjoy financial things like financial tools, financial instruments, like investing. The only thing I just don't really care about is just making money. But outside of that, like having money and knowing what to do with it, I think I do a pretty good job of at least understanding the things that you should be doing with your money. But the only thing that I don't have anymore is this will to want to make a lot of money, because I feel like that will is a misfortune on society. It's a horrible aspect of capitalism, whereas this mentality of like chasing wealth and always chasing wealth and doing whatever it takes to make more money. And that idea is the reason why, yes, I'm in a position where I can have the things that I want, but at the same time, at what cost? At like what cost is it for a lot of people? Like, I know for a fact that a lot of the places where I buy my products from, people aren't being paid fairly or at all. Maybe they've lost their jobs to robots. I mean, I get a majority of my stuff from Amazon, and that's a shitty ass company. And I'm probably going to get like delisted from Amazon podcast, but it's just the truth. Honestly, I mean, I can understand why Jeff Bezos probably is doing like what he's doing, because he's in his mind, he feels like he's making society better because he's taking the focus away from, it's almost like he wants to get rid of capitalism. And the only way to do that is really to minimize the cost of all products and services to such a low point that he just like demonstrates the ability to just make, different services and products worth absolutely nothing, minimizing the requirement for a lot of people to make a ton of money in the first place. And I get that, but the means to get there, I don't agree with the way he's doing it. And for me, that just lets me know that I'm not doing well in the system as well. And I feel bad for individuals that I see on the streets. Las Vegas has a big homeless person issue as well. And every time I see these individuals, I feel bad for them. But just last week, I was driving. I had to go to a doctor's visit for my daughter, and I was driving. And now it's starting to get like, around mid afternoon, it starts to actually get darker a little bit earlier because it's the winter time period. And my wife's in the car. We normally just always travel together with our daughter. And I sit in the front. My wife's always sitting in the back with our daughter because I just feel like it makes my daughter feel more comfortable having a parent back there. And I'm driving when all of a sudden, like, there's this person in the middle of the road. And I thought maybe like they were just kind of like going around someone on the sidewalk or something. But no, they were just an individual that had a whole bunch of stuff on them. And it looked like they were on some kind of drugs, and they were just walking in the middle of the road. And then I had to like brake really hard, let them kind of recognize that they were in the middle of the road. And then they just kind of stumbled onto the sidewalk. And I was on the phone with my mom actually at the time when that happened. And I just remember saying like, oh my God, I just almost hit like a drugged out person on the street. Like, what the fuck? This is crazy. Like, what is this person thinking? Like, that's me. I did that. Like, knowing that this individual, like, who knows what reasons they got addicted to like the drugs that they're on. I mean, I won't know unless I stop my car, in the middle of like on the side of the road and try to have a conversation with a drugged out person. But, for that specific individual, like, everyone has their different reasons for why they have gotten themselves or life put them in that position. And it's unfortunate that that's the world that we live in, that these people, there's so much fortune in this world. And yet these people probably don't want much. They probably want what the average person wants: shelter, food, and just the ability to do the things that they want to do within reason, within a reasonable perspective, like being able to go on small vacations and do these kind of things. But life has been just so challenging for them for whatever reason, for whatever condition that they have, that they don't get to enjoy that perspective of life. And they envy those that they see all the time around them that get to have that kind of lifestyle. And they feel like a lot of the people are having that kind of life, but there are still a lot of people out there that look like they're doing well, but aren't, because they're in a ton of debt, student loan debt, credit card debt. And for face value, they look like they're doing fine, but ultimately they're worse than being poor. They're indebted. And I don't know. It's just, it just always reminds me of just how wrong of an idea capitalism is, because ultimately the advancements that we've achieved has been in due part because of capitalism, and to some degree. But at the same time, capitalism has also stifled the level of technology we could have now. Because, for instance, patent law is so ass backwards. Copyright is ridiculous. Being a creative individual, like, it would be great to look at like different series and being able to like expand on certain universes, but copyright, it's like 100 years. Like, I think it's like 100 years after the author dies. Then that's when you're able to, it's like on the like freedom, like public domain, and you're able to write about this specific person or like make characters in their universe. Patents, 10 years. Like pharmaceutical companies, they make a drug and they argue that they've put a ton of money in research and development, which they haven't. I mean, either way, they were going to put that money in there anyways to remain competitive. But they claim because of the fact that they put all this money into research that they should be entitled to like having a patent on a potentially life-saving drug for 10 years before it's able to go generic. And then they're able to dictate whatever cost. It's almost like a mini monopoly. We're like allowing mini monopolies of ideas and services. And a lot of people would argue like, well, you have to have some form of patent law to protect you from competition just coming in and just improving on your idea and then destroying you. And yeah, I mean, there has to be something, but like the level of time that's required is like that that is allowed for these ideas now is crazy. Like, I mean, I think the minimum is 5 years, but I could be wrong about that. Most patent law, I feel like it's like 10 years. 10 years. I mean, most products don't even exist for longer than a year at this point. And why would you need a 10-year patent on something? So then you could just litigate away someone that's like looking at your idea and trying to improve on it. It's just so stupid. Like, where we would be in society right now if we didn't have, like, if capitalism accelerated us up to a point and then we were like, this system's really ass backwards. Like, we should try to like improve on it and really not chase wealth, but instead like chase making humanity better, like making, like developing community. I feel like there has to be a way to take the barter system that existed prior to capitalism and taking capital and the some aspects of capitalism, merging the two together and making an idea that allows the development of community and allows for the idea that we all should be have the ability to be happy and do the things that we want to do as long as it's not taking away from other people. Um, but yeah, it's sad that a lot of us are always frown on these individuals, like as if like it's in the full capacity of theirs to get themselves out of this situation that they're in. Who the fuck are you to understand what this person's, what got them in this position in the first place, And then who are you to try to empathize with someone that's was born with a condition that stops them from having the lifestyle that you have as well? And your solution to it is make it all disappear. Give them houses outside of our area, right? Like, especially if you're a rich person, you're like, I don't want like low income housing in my area. Oh, that's going to bring crime and stuff like that. Like, I want that in the desert or like 50 miles away. And that's like how the average person talks, right? Like, if you're in a position of wealth or upper middle class or even middle class, it's like the idea is like, oh, I don't want low income people in my area. They're going to just bring crime and be dirty and lower the value of my property. And it's like, so what do you want? Like, you want these people off the streets, but then you don't want to provide them housing in your area. You want them to like have housing like in the middle of nowhere. And it's just like, we're dehumanizing people. And I don't like that idea. Like, it's bad and it's not conducive. And I'm not perfect. Like I said, I've made the mistakes of especially for homeless people, having certain ideas before, and I've slowly kind of evolved out of that. But the way that this guy kind of addressed the movie Us and his YouTube channel made me really reflect on the message of the movie and the idea of how society is doing that. How we're just wishing away. We're trying to wish away and make things disappear instead of like just incorporating it into society and trying to help these individuals get themselves out of the situations that they're in. I don't know. It's just, I hate the idea of selfishness. It's wrong. Like, it's all right to be somewhat selfish in the sense that like you should be happy and you should be pursuing things that you want to do, but your selfishness should never take away from others. And like, I know for a fact that many people everyone could almost do anything that they want to do that makes them happy without hurting other individuals. But we're just not there yet. And it just sucks to understand that fact. It really does suck. But either way, I just wanted to talk about that. I know I got off in like a mini tangent, and that's just me. I mean, if you've been listening to my podcast at this point or up to this point, you would already know that that's kind of like what I do. But either way, thank you guys so much for listening to today's podcast, and I'll catch you guys mañana. Peace.